It's good to be here with all of you. And sorry, I was slightly preoccupied because it looks like Charlie Kirk was just shot at an event. And this is the challenge in our country, and it's the challenge in our politics, and it's emblematic of what we're seeing, obviously, across the country and around the globe. The willful acts of violence that people engage in with those they disagree with, and we see it obviously very acutely with respect to the anti-Semitism that we have seen not just on college campuses, but in these protests around the globe, which is all the more reason why 5 years after the Abraham Accords were signed, it is critically important that we continue to promote them, that we continue to strengthen them. It is one of my top priorities as chair of the Middle East and North Africa Subcommittee to make sure that we are not only strengthening the relationship between Arab states and the State of Israel, but that we are doing everything in our power to normalize, to bring about peace and stability, to end the reign of terror that has consumed the Middle East for so long. Earlier this year, I traveled to Saudi Arabia, to Israel, and to Jordan, and we talked extensively about the threats from Iran and its terror proxies and what that does to undermine stability and peace in the region. We talked about the importance of normalization, especially between Saudi Arabia and Israel. We talked about the important relationship between Jordan and Israel. Jordan has been one of our greatest allies in the Middle East, and they have been a great ally to Israel and done a lot to intervene, to prevent, to protect. And so it's important as we move forward that the Abraham Accords fulfilled their commitment, that we do bring about greater economic and military cooperation between the U.S., Israel, and Arab states. It's why the President's trip to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE earlier this year was so important, because we have to be able to bring our Arab partners along. The world today is in a much better place. As shocking as that may seem to some, it's in a better place than it was prior to October 7th. And what I mean by that is Hamas and Hezbollah have been largely decimated. Assad's regime in Syria has fallen. Iran's air defenses, ballistic missiles program, and its nuclear ambitions have been largely decimated. And there is a real yearning in Arab states for peace. Everyone is tired of the fighting, of the terrorism, of the conflict. But in order for us to get there, in order for us to really forge this path forward, the conflict in Gaza has to come to an end. And what I have said many times to my colleagues and to those around the globe, if you want a ceasefire, if you want the conflict to come to an end, there's only one way for that to occur, and that's for Hamas to surrender and release the hostages. In the absence of that, this notion that Israel should unilaterally disarm, I'd love to ask the French or the Brits or anybody else, who is going to remove Hamas? Who is going to return the hostages? They don't have an answer. They don't want one. It's easier to just say we want to recognize a Palestinian state, whatever the hell that means. But yet none of them can tell you who would be in charge, where it would be, or what the boundaries would be. Because most of them don't actually understand Oslo, and most of them don't actually understand that Area C is about 60% of Judea and Samaria. They'll never tell you that. They'll just talk about Israeli settlers. But this is the challenge that Israel faces, and it's why the Abraham Accords is so important. There is real opportunity, but it requires resolve, it requires strength, it requires accountability. I just came back from a trip to Italy, Tunisia, and Morocco. Morocco, obviously, a key partner in the Abraham Accords. They want normalization across the Middle East and North Africa. They want greater economic cooperation. They want greater military cooperation. They want to be an exporter of peace and stability and security. So there is a lot of work that my committee is doing and will continue to do, whether it is focusing on Syria and how we stabilize that country. And by the way, the prospects of normalization there would be huge for the region. The prospects from the Gulf to the Mediterranean and having a cohesive economy in which there is greater trade, there is greater tourism, there is greater security, is possible, but only if we continue to lead, and the Abraham Accords are the path forward. That's why in my first term, Congressman Torres and I introduced and passed the Special Envoy for the Abraham Accords Act. And I continue to push the administration to fill that position because having someone focused exclusively on that is vital. And when you look at some of the other issues, in particular related to Iran, that is vital. Ending that illicit oil trade with China, crippling sanctions to stop their funding of terrorism, and long-term, having a situation in which the Palestinians are free from their oppressors, Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. All of this is interconnected, all of it vital, and we continue to make progress. I think President Trump has done a very good job in the Middle East, leading, forging a path forward, bringing our Arab partners along, but there's more work to be done. So I appreciate AJC and the great work that you do day in, day out on issues from the U.S.-Israel relationship to combating anti-Semitism to standing up for the Jewish people here in America. And I thank you all for being here as we celebrate and mark the 5th anniversary of the Abraham Accords. Thank you very much.